So where we left off last is we created our maze and we set it up so that we end up getting a door location as well as a barrier location. Now we also ended up setting up a while loop. What was our reasoning for setting up this while loop that I have highlighted here?
Oh, for the random location.
Exactly, so that we can get the random location, but so that also the door location and the barrier location do not actually overlap, right? So we can use the absolute value function there to find the absolute value of the door location minus the barrier location. Remember, that is just finding the difference of those two numbers, so how far away they are from each other, those locations. And if it is less than or equal to our path width, we're gonna basically continue to get new random locations for those door and also the barrier until it is not, they're basically not on top of each other. Now, we also set up two selection statements. We had an if case where, remember, if the door comes before the barrier, we've got to ensure that our code is set up so that it can create the door first and then create the barrier after. Now, after that, I have an else. Why do I not have elif on there?
There's no other scenario.
Exactly. There's no other scenario. There's no other condition, right? It's just either the case the door comes before the barrier or the barrier comes before the door. And so that's why that else statement, we don't have it as elif barrier location less than door location. Now, as you were with your partner, you probably ended up looking at this code and you noticed some things, right, that were repetitive. What I want us to do first is we've got to break this down. And what I want to ask you is, what section are we creating the door? And what section of the code are we creating the barrier? Now, you can go through and you can visualize this line by line, right? Maze painter dot forward, I'm going forward to the door location, then I'm going pin up, then I'm moving forward that path width, then I'm going pin down. What did we just create with that line of code? The door, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this out, right? So that we can kind of imagine this. So comment draws door. And then after this, I'm going to comment draws barrier. Okay? Just so that we know. Now, if I scroll down here, in this case, the else, what occurs first in the else? Exactly, draw the barrier. And then what occurs after that? Draw the door. So do you guys see how this is occurring here? Now, before I make any changes on this, what is the best thing I can do before I make any further changes where I start implementing the function?
Make a backup.
Make a backup. The last thing you guys want to do is crash out because you didn't end up backing up your code, right? If I back it up, I always got the previous version I could come back to. I press Control-Shift-S, and I'm going to end up saving this as 124 hyphen improving efficiency, because that is what is, this is from the e-text. We're on the improving efficiency section. Okay? Now, if I draw the door here, you'll see that we're going forward, that door location pin up, go forward the path width, and then go pin down. If I
see the drawer door, yeah, below on the else statement is different.
That's right. Now, if I go here, we're going forward, that value again, right? It's just changing what we're going forward by. But then we're still doing pin up, we're still going forward path width, and then we're still doing pin down.
That's the part we gotta make an if, we're gonna make a define statement for the repetitive part.
Exactly, exactly. And so this last part, that's just drawing the remainder of the wall, right? Draw remainder, remaining wall, draw remaining wall. And then we have to turn left 90, right? And so that's the case here. Draw remaining wall there as well. Okay? So now, just as I gave you all in that example code, there are some functions that we need to establish. Now remember, after we have established our configuration variables, the next thing, so how your code should always be, import modules, After that, list any global variables. In this case, we don't have any global variables just yet. Then we got to have our configuration variables. After that, then we can start defining functions. So that's what I'm going to put in here, line 14 for me. I'm going to start off by defining draw underscore door. Now, what do I want to pass in there? Just as we said, POS for position. And then what I want to do is I want to take our code here. Now, if I take this, I'm just going to copy this for right now. I'm going to paste it in here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure that my indentation is followed. Now, this is in general what we need to do to draw the door, right? However, this door location, is that what I want to use?
No.
No. Instead, we're going to switch that out with the parameter POS, which is the position of where that door should be, right? How far forward do we need to move? Now right here, we've got the maze painter, and we want it to go forward path width. And then what I want to do at the end is I want to go pin down. Now I'm going to put a little comment in here, experiment later by making door width bigger. That's something that would be nice, right? That we might want to end up doing. And so now, can this code end up running here?
No.
Yeah, we are not running that just yet, right? Because we haven't called it just yet. And so now, if I go down here, where I draw this door, remember there's a part right here where I draw the door, and then I'll also draw the door down here. Now, POS is going to be what for this first case?
Door location?
Precisely. So what I'm going to do is in this first if statement, I'm going to pass into this. So I'm going to go draw underscore door. I'm going to pass in the door location. Now this pin up, forward, and pin down, do we need that anymore? No, because that was in the actual function, right? So now, will we have drawn the door there? Yes. Now where else do I draw a door? Exactly, it's in this else statement. Now, what I need to do is just take this and replace this with draw door. Isn't it going to be the case where it's going to be the door location minus the barrier location? Yes, and I can erase this as well. These lines of code because we put those in our draw door function. I'm going to go ahead and save my code once again. And so now, as we can see, I ran my code just to see if it works. Is my code working?
Yes, my code is definitely working fine.
Yes. So now we have that set up, right, where this does end up working correctly. It's always important that you always test your code after you make each little change so that what you did is you can ensure that it's correct. Okay? Now, the last thing you were prompted to do is we ended up drawing that door, right? Now, what about the barrier function? So let's go ahead. Let's create that function so we can make our code more efficient. I'm going to define on line 20. That's before my for loop, before my iteration. I'm going to define draw underscore barrier. Now, what am I going to pass into here? The parameter is going to be POS, position. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have the maze painter, and I'm actually going to take our code that we had previously. So see how this is where we draw the barrier? I'm going to take this, and I'm going to end up pressing Control X to cut that. And I'm going to paste it into here. I want to ensure that my indentation is the same. Now, just as we said before, all of these variables, do we want to use those? We do not currently in there. What do we want to replace all of these with? What is our parameter? POS, right? So now we can put that in there, okay? Now, how do we end up implementing this code here for the draw barrier? What do I need to do in here in this if statement? What function do we need to call? Draw barrier. What am I going to pass in for our position there? What is it? So we want to pass in the barrier location minus the door location minus our path width, right? Because that's what we had previously. And then now we've got that draw barrier in there. What do I want to do next? Right here, if I'm trying to draw the barrier and it occurs at barrier location, what should I replace this code on line 50 with? Draw barrier. Do I need this code because this was part of the actual draw barrier function? No, we can take that out. So now, let's test our code just to make sure everything works. Does it look like everything's working?
Yep.
Yep. Now, what is something I could do to make this code run even faster?
Set painter speed to 0.
Set painter speed to 0, but then what's the other thing too that we learned about in terms of window? Tracer, and I got to set it to what?
False.
Yeah, wn.tracer false.
Light speed.
And then once we're done, wn.update. That's right. Okay. Now, here's the extension. Here's the stretch. What did I mention as the stretch? What did I say you should try to do if you finish early? Was it? Well, it's always important to, we were talking about pseudocode and all that, right? It is important to do pseudocode. But what about in terms of making this code where you overachieve a bit more?
Make the remainder simplified.
You can make the remainder simplified, but what I mentioned in the bell work is try to have this where maybe it's the case where a wall doesn't even have a door on it.
Oh.
Okay? Now, think about that. How could we implement that? Well, isn't it the case? How could you set this code up very simply to not actually draw the door? Isn't this line of code what actually tells us to create the door, right? Because we do pin up. If you want to go above and beyond with your code, this is how you can do that. How do I get a random value? Yep, see how I imported random as R? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave it up to chance. I'm going to go if r.rand int, and then I'm going to put in here 0, 3, where that will be 0, 1, 2, or 3. How many options do we have there? 4. Now, if I put that in there and I want to have this be a 3 out of 4 chance that there will be a door, can't I do this? If it is less than or equal to 2, then I want to have it be where the pin is brought up. Meaning, we're going to create that door. Now, if it's the case where we generate the random number as 3, is our pin going to ever move up? No. So will there be a door that's actually created? No, there won't in that case. So that's how you can go a bit above and beyond. That's how you can make it even more challenging for your maze. We were talking about the extension. If you want to go above and beyond with this, you could have different difficulty levels, right? Easy, medium, hard. Can't you mess around with those values that are used at random there? Yes. So that you could end up making it maybe more likely that there's going to be no door on there. Let's run our code. Let's make sure that it works. And so let's see here. Is it the case where we don't have any doors? Do you guys see this wall right here? There were no doors on that.
What about no
We did have a
barriers?
door here. We had a door there. And there was no door right here too, right? And so yeah, exactly as John's saying there, you could also set this up. Maybe there's no barriers. Now, if there's no barriers, that'll make it a bit easier, right? So maybe it's the case if it's an easy game, then it's more likely that there's not a barrier. All right? So that is how we can improve the efficiency. It's what we just talked about there. And additionally, at the very, very end, what we just mentioned is how you can set your code up so that at random, there's maybe no doors, or also there's no barriers. Okay?